topic that I came up with today. Because I had store brand version of Honey Nut Cheerios, which is beloved by all in this group. And I got to say, it was a disappointment.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were about to say it was superior.
No.
I was like,
Oh,
wait a
no.
minute.
You can go
and you
store
expected
brand
it to be?
I did. Well, because you can go store
Which
brand
store?
on so many other things. Harris Teeter, the Harry Teet.
Oh man, come on! I mean, you got to go like Fresh Market, like bare minimum for its maybe approach, or maybe Trader Joe's.
No, that's what I was just about to say. I stand Trader Joe's on many things, except for their in-house cereal brands. I have yet to have one that I have. Like not like, and I'm not even judging it on a like, is it almost as good as the OG? I'm saying is bad. Like I don't like it. Period. Like I will throw the box away. Almost every Trader Joe's house brand of cereal, and again, I love Trader Joe's. Don't come for me. But cereal, not your thing, Joseph. Not your.
Do y'all know about the lore for Trader Joe's and Aldi?
There's lore.
Yeah. So I'm gonna get some of this wrong, and so I especially apologize to folks from Europe who are watching who know more of the origin of this. If I'm remembering correctly, at a certain point there were two brothers who kind of were the heritors of the Aldi brand, and they had some kind of falling out or difference of agreement, and so the Aldi in the U.S. operates under two names, and one of them is Trader Joe's.
Oh,
wow! I mean, I knew that they were related. I didn't know about the brothers.
Wild.
I didn't know that it's just a different name.
Right, and then like
hashtag lore drop.
Aldi has the whole like kind of more European work paradigm of like lots of labor protections and that kind of stuff, which kind of puts Trader Joe's like occasional reputation as like kind of very worker oriented into context, but the vibe is so different between the two, right?
Super different.
Similar story between Adidas and Puma, two brothers.
Really?
Two brothers. The Adidas, who founded Adidas, had some controversial political beliefs that we shouldn't talk about on air.
Nope.
And his bro was like, you know what? F you, man. I'm going to make my own shoes.
Yeah.
Dang.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
I really like that we started with grocery lore, but how about we?
Well, you had the thumbnel, right?
That's right. We had the cats. I was gonna make.
Circle.
I have a segue here, but that one's better. We did use the cereal.
Yeah, I know. You should have just said that you had tried store brand Captain Crunch. Captain Crunch.
Yeah.
And just
Captain. Well,
I've never tried any brand of Captain
Yes,
Crunch.
Yes, Allison. What?
No, I was going to roll to the intro, and then we were going to start talking about what we all came here to talk about.
Why don't we do that for a second? We'll pour ourselves some cereal, and you do the intro.
We'll pour ourselves some cereal. You pour yourself some cereal. We'll be right back.
Yeah.
After these. Fitz.
What?
I don't know if you've looked at comments yet, but we started to have a little baby fight a couple weeks ago about what's the baseline Cheerio. And I feel like Seth may be on my side. That Cheerios might be the baseline Cheerio and not Honey Nuts.
Y'all are serial killers.
Serial killers? Yeah, with my mouth.
Are we going to get into ontology, unmarked categories?
Yes. Hey, everybody.
Who is this handsome person joining us today?
Yes. This is so much fun. We wanted to invite our good buddy, good pal, Mike Underwood, onto the show once we came up with the topic at hand. Mike, thank you for being here.
Hello. It's
for
great
those who don't know who you are, which why not, give us a quick little intro.
Sure, yeah. So I'm Mike Underwood. I use they and he pronouns. I multi-classed into game design after a career as an author, where right now I'm mostly focusing on game design. Most folks will know me at this point as a additional designer on the Daggerheart core rulebook, and I also worked on a couple of the adventures and the homebrew guide. And then since the games came out, I have been doing pretty consistent streaming, kind of sharing my individual perspectives on and thoughts on and guidance for playing, running, and designing for use with the Daggerheart rules. So I heard about Pocket Dimension probably during the beta when y'all were getting into the game, as I was trying to keep my eye on what folks were saying in the community. So it's great to be here with you.
It's great to have you.
Great to have you.
Yeah. Yeah. Your YouTube channel is one of my favorites.
Thank you.
It really, really is, because
he says that behind your back too, Mike.
Straight. You're just, and it's just refreshing and nice. I think that's why I like. So the other part of this, the reason that we're talking about crunch today, is all based on something that I heard Mike Shea, again, so many Mikes, but Mike Shea, Sly Flourish, the Lazy GM. I listened to his live stream Sunday mornings as I'm waking up, and he said something during this live stream that I went, what? And that statement was, he said, Daggerheart is crunchy, is a crunchy game. And we'll get into that. We have a little, we have some structure to today's show, but that kind of blew my mind. But I did realize while we were talking about this that one of the reasons I like your channel so much is that it has that same kind of grounded truth reality that Mike Shays does for me. So,
well, that is a great compliment. Mike is a river to our people in terms of TTRPG players and GMs especially.
Yes.
So that is a lovely comparison.
Well, meant. So yeah.
So
what is crunchy?
Do we want to start there?
Yeah,
you said there's a structure.
We're coming up with like a what's the word? Oh my god, my
through line
connection,
crunch, connection, but like a the lowest crunch to the highest crunch.
Oh, sure, like a spectrum.
A spectrum of crunch. Thank you. Why did I forget the word spectrum? I was reaching and I couldn't grab it. Spectrum. We were trying to come up with like what's the spectrum of crunch, and I did like having like Doritos Locos on one side, and then we have like the Nature Valley bars on the other side, like. Where are we falling? Yeah. Where are we falling? And Captain Crunch maybe is at the bottom of the tier, and then we got Doritos Locos maybe in the middle, and then we got like Nature Valley all the way on the crunch. So like, where are we falling in
my crunch scale
spectrum?
Is Weetabix pre-milk and Weetabix post-milk, because Weetabix is my current.
Neither of those are very crunchy.
Yes, they are. Weetabix without milk is very crunchy.
Does milk represent play culture?
Ooh, thank you. Thank you for trying to bring this
Big brain time right there.
Nerdy, it's the best. Okay, so yeah, come up with your spectrum. Yeah. I do think Nature Valley granola bar is, if we're talking edible crunchy things, I mean, there are things more crunchy than Nature Valley granola bars, but maybe don't eat them.
So like, what would the game version of the Nature Valley bar be? Are we talking like that Witcher game you learned, Matt, or do you have one?
Then that's kind of what this is about, is that I didn't immediately hear Mike Shea say this and immediately like try to prove him wrong. I was just genuinely curious, because I have considered Daggerheart as a game to be rules medium, if anything, right? And so I was just very confused, but I did go into the Sly Flourish Discord and asked. And
Mike.
What?
You went at him.
Like I added him. Yes, I did.
Him.
I did, in fact, at him. I went at him, gentlemen. And I started a mini conversation about it. My definition of crunch has always been heavily tied to mathematics and rules and how rules and mechanics feel mathy to me. But Mr. Shea's immediate response was, it's to me, crunch is the amount of stuff. Meaning the sheer number of mechanics, rules, things. And he was including Daggerheart's cards, Daggerheart's tokens, and even talking about the tokens make it crunchy. He says that this is really controversial, that Daggerheart is crunchier to him than Dragonbane, which I really don't get. But
haven't played Dragonbane, so no point of reference there.
Yeah.
But it is free league, so I'm making assumptions.
I would say that it's
Are Matt and I
closer
the
to
only ones
D&D.
that have played it? Yeah.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember. Yeah.
It's a great
Free
game.
league games tend to be crunchier. Is that a truism?
Which
I
one?
think they're less crunchy, right?
Less crunchy.
Free league
Free
is
leagues.
less.
Yeah.
I would say so. I mean, just for me, they tend to remove math. But again, this is the shock of my week, is that I wasn't alone, luckily. I wasn't the only person on the planet that felt this way in this life. I wasn't alone. Other people were kind of equating crunch with math. But here's this new definition of crunch for me, and that's kind of where all of this started.
Hey, new year, new crunch, baby.
New year, new
Do
crunch.
we want to just, in chat, get in here? Rabbit, I know you've got opinions. I shushed Rabbit in Discord this week. I was like, save it for the stream. I want to hear about it live.
Wait, just hold.
Do we each want to go around and say like what our personal definition of crunch is?
Yeah,
I mean, Matt's kind of kicked us off. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Can we start with the professional?
Yes.
All right, so I'm going to give two caveats here.
Okay.
One is that I feel like I've been having this conversation off and on for most of 30 years because I got into playing TTRPGs when I was very young. And then the second is just a general caveat that in these appearances, I'm really only ever speaking for myself, right? I have a lot of experience with Daggerheart, but I'm not speaking for any of the other designers or for Darrington, right? So this is just my POV. I tend to associate crunch to a fair degree with math, but not necessarily. If I'm trying to like really live with the metaphor, it's the question of I open up a game, and when I go through the process of trying to learn a game, or when I'm trying to kind of execute on a game, how much work do I have to do to get through it, right? How much do I have to crunch the thing down before I can swallow, right? If I'm going to extend the metaphor a little bit farther, right? And so that
how much mastication is involved?
Right.
Whoa.
If we're going to kind of pull back the imagery of it a little bit, right? What is that process of kind of downloading the system, and then how much cognitive load are you having to dedicate to kind of moving through or operating within the system? And I think for me, if I can gesture at Daggerheart real quick before we move on.
Yeah.
Daggerheart's crunchiness, depending on your definition, of course, may be a little bit harder to contextualize, because I think there has been so much effort to make the game lighter on cognitive load. This is something that Spencer Stark, the lead designer of the game, has talked about a fair amount. And I wonder if that then brings in the question of like tutorialization, how well the game like teaches itself or presents itself to you, and some of the implicit expectations of play that some games do or don't make explicit. But I'll leave it there.
Oh.
All of that so much.
Oh, so you're saying in trying to make it an easier game to learn, you're actually making a tiny bit more of an onboarding.
That was not my intent. The way I was thinking about it was that some folks may think of it as not being as crunchy. And the assessment I might make there is because a lot of the intentionality that went into designing the game as it is executed in such a way that made it easier to process.
Yes. But are you also then implying that that's hiding the fact that it might be crunchier?
I think if we have a continuum from freeform RP to the crunchiest game you've ever played, right? Something that's like up there with Palladium, Hero, games with hundreds of pages of charts and dozens of pages of kind of like weapon ballistics and things. Daggerheart for me is somewhere in the middle, and then where we place it in relation to other games is then maybe another conversation.
Okay. Next.
Well, I'll bounce because you used a word that for me really boils it down. I think like when you really take it down to brass tacks, it's about cognitive load, period. Overall, from start to finish, and your experience playing it as well. I think Drewski kind of summed it up for me, which is like how much time are you having to think about how the game functions when you're playing the game versus just playing the game. Or like when you're I always try to think of like how easy is it to on-ramp someone, and then there's like 3 phases of it, right? There's how easy is it to on-ramp someone and have them not be overwhelmed? We don't want to overload them. Number 2 is how easy is it for someone who's starting to pick it up to be able to just do the thing that they want to do without thinking about the mechanics behind it. Like you just sort of are internalizing it. And then I also think of like with experienced players, how easy is it for them to then start the circle over and teach someone else how to play? Like how much cognitive load overall are we reducing? So to me, I'm definitely putting Daggerheart in the middle because there are some things that are not necessarily the easiest to explain. Like I think of the armor mechanic. It's definitely simplified since a lot of the beta stuff, but like that might be something where someone gets tripped up, for example. But then I also compare the domain cards to the spells in D&D and just remembering what it was like to learn the difference between spell slots, spell levels, long rest, that sort of thing, versus in Daggerheart, it's a card and it's one sentence and it's so easy to read. Like I'm thinking of when we played our however we ended at Strahd, we're level 15, whatever the heck it was. Even as an experienced player who's played this character for a long time, has played other clerics, reading the spell list and just keeping track of what you have was taking a lot of brain power. Versus in Daggerheart with the domain cards, you have sentences. That said, something like a Shadow Dark is like, it's one little thing and all of it is like one sentence and a couple of numbers and you're good to go. So that to me is like real low on the cognitive load side. But say, Daggerheart is beneath a D&D on that spectrum, the Nature Valley spectrum. And it all boils down to cognitive load.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Brother.
Evan.
Strong words.
I have opinions about crunchy things, about granola.
I love it.
Okay, I have thoughts. So I think one way to frame this is in some ways you could define it like when you're onboarding on a game, right? Because the longer you play it, the more of an expert you become, right? So it's more like, is it crunchy? I've never played Pathfinder. People say it's super crunchy. But if you play it all the time, you're more of an expert you become, the easier these crunchy things start to feel, probably the more second nature. However, there's plenty of things about 5e that even though we played fairly regularly, I would still get tripped up on like, wait, how the hell does that work? What the hell? So that's like a real frictiony, crunchy moment for me. And to speak to Drew's point of when it takes you, not that crunch is not, like a 4-letter word, right? Some people really love that.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But for me, it's not a 4-letter word, but for me, it's not preferred because I agree with Drew. If it takes me out of the moment, if I have to think about the mechanics that I'm no longer listening to what's happening at the table as much or thinking about what character would do versus could. So that's a couple of things there, framing it just in your expertise level. And then the other thing that I had to say, I've now forgotten.
Cool.
I I will say I've steered away from crunchy games because I get intimidated by them. I don't. No one's ever said, "Hey, let's go play Pathfinder." I totally would. Although I think, brother, you described. What did we play at Gen Con? We played Cyberpunk, right?
Yes.
And you said that it was fairly crunchy, and maybe it was just. Now I remember what my other point. You had said, yeah, this is pretty crunchy, not as crunchy as The Witcher, apparently, but in the playing of it, and maybe this was just your GMing was such that you allowed us to not feel that crunch, through your kindness.
Macros.
You had macro. You had done the heavy lifting for us.
Yeah.
So I didn't feel that way, and like there was plenty of charts and stuff, and it was I really enjoyed it. I didn't feel like lost or out of character. So there's that. Here was the other thing I was going to make is that what's the level of difference in crunch perception for GMs versus players?
Yeah.
That's
sure.
What you were saying, it opened up another topic that I was thinking about.
Because I have a follow-up question for you, Evan, which I think ties in nicely to this of like the crunch of GM versus player. Yeah, I have a follow-up because I was listening actively to what you said, and I wanted to respect that and then honor that and then ask more questions. So
I'm going to take this down and put it back up after you're done.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. So is that why, for example, you tend to like a martial class versus a caster class? Is that
probably?
And maybe it could be, Porque no los dos. Is it just because you like to play more martial that aligns with like what sparks joy with you? Or is it because you find just a little extra crunch with the spellcaster classes that you don't want to deal with? That feels intimidating.
There is a level of overwhelm with casters. There's so many options that it does start to feel it's not as fun for me. I don't know if I attribute that to, I guess that is a crunchy thing, but all of a sudden you're managing lots of stats and spells and when you can cast them and when you can't. And you're juggling things, your cognitive load increases. So yeah, probably. I never really thought about it like that, but yeah.
Phrases.
So what we're finding out here is that there's macro crunch on the game level and micro crunch on the person-to-person level.
Micro machines.
It's all right, I'm gonna put this thing from Alan back up.
That was why I'd highlighted it as well. And that kind of leads into my definition of crunch, which I think I'm going to be repeating a lot of what has already been said. So the word that I will use in place of the words that all of you have already used, so everybody gets their own words, is I equate crunch to barrier. So like, what is the barrier, both when we talk about macro and micro level, like to play the game at all, like how quickly can I pick up a game and either learn it for myself or teach it to others? And then as a player, like how quickly can I pick it up, right? So and then that kind of, and so like all of these things that we're mentioning are all components of that crunch for me. So the amount of math is a component of it. The amount of stuff is a component to it, right? But not one single thing defines the crunchiness. It's the sum of all parts for me. My question for Evan, though, like now we're just follow-up questioning Evan, is I have felt certain martial characters have more of a crunch than casters. And I have watched people playing martial characters. Struggle to be like, ooh, because I hit them in this way in this round, and it's Tuesday, and I baked bread last night. Like I get to roll an advantage now. Like and that for me, whereas like for casters, it always like here's the spell, here's the DC, it either hits or it doesn't, and then this does or doesn't happen.
I'll admit that I think part of my crunch perception, extrasensory crunch perception, is that it is also linked to my user experience specifically with D&D Beyond, which I find to have some serious UX problems. Right,
fair and accurate,
especially around spells and like the organization of that. Like it is like they got some stuff to hammer out. They're not going to, but so I think maybe that is part of it. And I haven't really dipped into what the solution is from demi-plane on the Daggerheart side, and you guys can tell me if the spell management for casters is a more positive UX, or if that contributes to any crunch in your mind during gameplay. Because we're for those of you who don't know, we're playing not around the table so much, so we don't get to hold the cards and stuff.
Right.
Or I guess you can, but we don't.
In Daggerheart, whether you're playing physically or virtually, the barrier, I'll go ahead and use my own word, there is the vault versus like what's in your loadout. And I think that like for somebody like me, because now we can really start to pick this apart and like what causes those barriers? Does my neurospice cause some of those barriers? Like, and all those things that we don't have to get into. Like, so with me, if it's not in front of my face, I don't remember that it exists. So like when things are in the vault, I have to make an active to like switch, things out. So I'm gonna stick that in the parking lot for right now, because that's a whole different topic, and I'm gonna finish my definition of crunch.
Put it in the phantom zone.
I'll put it in the phantom zone. It's gonna go into,
No,
I'm gonna put it in the upside down for a second. How's that? Does that feel better?
Feels better. Feels good.
I'll put it in the in between space. So so when I think about and I have to understand too that what everybody's saying in chat and what y'all are saying is that barrier does become easier to punch through with experience playing all TTRPGs, right? But still, even as somebody who now has 5 whole years of experience, plus almost 6 whole years of experience playing TTRPGs, like I could learn and teach Daggerheart in a small number of hours. I can set up a character sheet almost instantly. Like we can start playing it. Whereas like I was trying to lead games of D&D, and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks into them, I was still coaching. Hell, we played Strahd, the very example we keep using, and we were still like, what does that mean? So that's what I mean by barrier, is kind of like what y'all have already said about how quickly can I pick it up and learn it, and then how quickly can I teach it to somebody else, and do I have to keep going back to the mat again and again and again, or can I just blaze a path of glory onward and upward? I have so much more to say, but I want to hear what Matt has to say too, and then get into the guts of things.
Get into the guts. Yeah. Crunchy guts.
All of these things are just, they're just expanding my mind, because I really do I really do agree with everything that I've heard. All of the the idea of experience reducing crunch, the idea of really, really well built onboarding to a game diminishes crunch. It's so funny that Sly Flourish would say that the cards, like he specifically talking about the cards, is in fact more crunch to him.
I know, that's funny.
But yes, but
because he doesn't like to use his physical hands.
Well, and I called that out. I was like, okay, so if you removed the cards, again, I wasn't arguing with anybody. I really wasn't. I'm still not. I'm genuinely just curious. But I said, okay, so if you remove the cards and the tokens, then is it less crunchy to you? And he said, you're still dealing with what is on the cards and tokens. You're still, the data is still there to be processed.
Yeah, but that's no different than 5e or any other, right? Like you have feats and you have spells and you have all of that stuff.
Feats on feats.
Feats on feats.
So what I want to throw back to Mike at this point.
Throw it.
This Mike. The important one that's with us here today.
So we've discovered there is a GM and a player crunch. And Sly Flourish is definitely saying, I've played 3 games of Daggerheart so far. It is going to be a campaign for him, but he's just getting started. And to him as a game master, there was enough, I guess he's kind of implying there's enough difference, there's enough stuff to kind of keep track of, to call it crunchy to him. Maybe he's saying Dragonbane, even though it's roll low instead of roll high, roll under instead of over game. That kind of made it crunchier for me, but he's saying that there was enough to kind of juggle. So as a designer then, where I don't even know. Okay, Daggerheart to me is easier to prepare. I know that for a fact. I know, I I really like the battle point system. I've used it successfully. Others have a harder time with it. Oh, that's a perfect example. So Sly Flourish says he loves the battle point system. He feels like there's too many options. So there's solo, leader, minion, and then there's a few more, and he would like just 4 instead of whatever it is.
This is a GM side of things for Daggerheart.
This is the GM side.
Can you tell me what that? Because I don't know about battle points.
Just that in a lot of games, really, even in D&D, or at least in Tales of the Valiant, there is a categorization of monsters on
like CR.
top of stats. Kind of like it's even beyond the CR. It is like, is this monster? Are you going to find them and fight them alone? Therefore, they're a solo beast. Are they a minion, like a skeleton?
At the end of the day,
are they leading
anyway, so.
minions? You know what I'm saying? Like, and
yeah.
And so you've got a few more. Mike, how much? And I don't know whether you worked specifically on the combat elements of Daggerheart, but like, how much did you have to factor in that? Like the GM side, the player side, the onboarding for either one.
Yeah. So I think a part of this conversation is that some games will add explicit material guidance or structures to one side of the table to lessen the load on the other side of the table. And some things are easier to bear as a load than others, right? The way that I GM, I tend to do a lot of improvisation. I do more specific and structured prep in Daggerheart than in a lot of other games because I like and am very familiar with the structure in Daggerheart, right? That is a little obvious. There's crunch for one side that makes things for the other side easier. And I think if you're going to compare two games and you're thinking like, oh, well, my experience of this game is that it's more crunchy in this way and less crunchy in this way, or more crunchy here. There's how many different things are there in the game? And then how well do they all fit together for you? How well can you move between them? How many of them do you have to think about at a given time? A game might have something more like a fractal structure or like an accordion structure. Or it's like the math things where it's like a dome you can kind of smoosh down, buckyball, right? Right, like there's a plastic wire frame and you can make it really big and then you can smoosh it down. Right. I think about accordioning, right? How much does the game's rules collapse down to some kind of core that is really usable? And how much can you do that without needing to actively exclude other elements of design? For me, Daggerheart and things like Powered by the Apocalypse or Forged in the Dark pretty solidly collapse down to a core resolution mechanic. And I have run Daggerheart where I omit other parts of the rules because it's somebody's first time. And specifically, I did this in a charity stream last May with people who mostly don't play TTRPGs. And it's like, okay, I'm running it more like it's a Powered by the Apocalypse game where I've kind of omitted a decent bit of the crunch because I want to reduce the amount of overhead in this particular case. But when games are designed intentionally, you're shooting for a specific experience of play, right? That there is crunch in Daggerheart because you're rolling damage dice. Weapons have damage ratings and these other qualities. Whereas in a game like Blades in the Dark, weapons mostly don't have specific mechanics, right? It might be a fine weapon or it's a tier 2 weapon, but there's not going to be a lot of stuff beyond that. Whereas something like Avatar Legends, the Avatar, the Last Airbender or Legend of Korra game is a Powered by the Apocalypse game, which is generally, that design style is generally pretty low crunch, but then it added a fair amount of complexity in the combat system out of what I see as an intent and a desire to give things for people to wrap their hands around and to create enough material so that you can zoom in, you can linger and dramatize that aspect of play with mechanical support.
Right. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. I've told this story before. I've told the story, but I don't know that I've told you. But I did run The Witcher at Gen Con last year, and that is by far the crunchiest game that I have tried to learn, and both mathematically and rules wise, and combat, like a combat turn is like so many rolls. I don't know if you've played it or not.
I haven't.
Can you give us one example of what you perceived as crunchy?
Okay, so if you are a Witcher in the game, if you're any character, but especially since the Witchers do damage, there is not only a roll to hit. There's a roll to hit, and then you roll as to where you hit, and then the opponent's armor. Yeah, you hit dick, and then the opponent's armor. Then you roll. Then that person rolls to see, and you're subtracting armor class. I've already forgotten so much.
Wow.
You're subtracting like the kind, and then you roll to see whether that was a like a permanent destruction of this armor, and so on and so on and so on and so on. And then like you said, the weapons have special moves, and my mind. There's an easy mode of Witcher, and I was trying to adhere to that, and my mind was still blown. However, there was a fellow GM at our Talsorian, and he absolutely adored this. To your point, he was a stunt person by trade. Like his real life, he was a stunt person, and so he played with his fellow stunt people, and that is what they lived for, was being able to mechanize everything that they physically knew how to do and give a die to it and give a purpose and point to it. So what's really like melting my brain today is, does that mean that to them, The Witcher is not as crunchy because they inherently deeply understand it, right? Because that's their world. Like if Daggerheart,
or is he just a crunch fetishist? Right?
That's right.
I mean, we going into subjectivity here, right? Mm-hmm. If our definition of crunch is experiential, then it's naturally going to be much more subjective. Yeah. If we're attempting to create some kind of at least contextually relational definition of crunch, right, then that should make it easier for us to be able to place different subjective experiences in some kind of relationship to one another, right? So that, okay, we call this game crunchy in these ways, or we talk about aspects of the game that are crunchy, right? The flow of an attack through damage and resolution has all of these steps. And so we think about it as being a crunchy process that then experientially some people may have an easier time with. I tend to think about it in that latter way of some people like certain types of and certain levels of crunch, and that crunch is neither inherently good nor bad. It represents ideally a design intent. It often represents an experience, but there's so much subjectivity and individuality in TTRPG experience that when we're having a conversation that relies so heavily on that, and we don't have as much of like the clear definitions on things, that's where things get muddy.
Yeah, and I can co-sign that. Like one of the big ones I've been thinking about as we think about and toss out all of these examples is two games that we kind of came into at similar timings and at similar levels of experience, but we have wildly different opinions about in terms of like, burden to play, barrier to play, DC 20 versus something like a Daggerheart. And that was kind of why I said the barrier for me is the thing that I look to determine crunch or not, because regardless of my level of experience, again, I know that I can sit down and make a character if I wanted to in a matter of minutes for Daggerheart. If I'm using that as I don't think this is a very crunchy system example, versus no matter how much experience, no matter how good at math I am, it's going to take me longer and I'm going to have to read and flip through more source materials to even get started on something like a DC-20. And to the point you just made, I think, Mike, that's by design. The dungeon coach wants that. He's open. He has weekly live streams.
He's a math dungeon crunch.
Yeah, he's trying. Dungeon Crunch is going to be the new cereal that's going to come out with when the book is finally released, right?
Kobolds marshmallows.
Yeah, exactly. But like he does weekly live streams and he's pulling back that curtain and he's trying to show us. But like, and even, you know, when I think about the crunch of that system, the way that marshals are powered is radically different from the way that casters are powered. We could almost be playing two different game systems based on the type of, you know, characters we want to roll up. And so this isn't me hating on DC-20, like, because like that, there is a fandom there. There are people who want that, who are like want to get in and talk about that and have big brain theory crafting time. But I don't think any of them would disagree with me that that is a crunchy game. Yeah. Math withstanding and math teacher led withstanding.
Yeah. And like you said, it's all about not only, I mean, there are certainly, we've been discussing the spectrum itself of crunch, but absolutely, I think that it needs to be a full spectrum because everybody's going to want something different. Yeah. And honestly, at different times, you might want something different. Like if you're coming off of a long campaign of, say, a Witcher or something where you enjoyed
People play campaigns of that?
I don't know, where you enjoyed like really getting into the nitty gritty. You're a stuntman and you love all the math, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then maybe after you play that for a while, it might be nice to take a break and go to a Shadow Dark or a D&D. Like at different times, I even find myself
craving different things.
I tend to like a certain area of the crunch spectrum. I don't love getting too crunchy. Like at some point, you know, we liked DC-20 in the beginning. We played it a lot. We did, you know, an AP of that. But then once it hit a certain level of crunch, then it just kind of went a little bit too far for our enjoyment. But maybe it went into somebody else's enjoyment zone.
Yeah.
I'd be curious to see what the some kind of diagram of, you know, people are either visual learners or audio, you know, auditory learners, kinesthetic, whatever. Who's just better built for certain kinds of game. Like you're not necessarily into crunch. Like our cousin is, you know, and our aunt are both, you know, mathematicians. So they might naturally gravitate. That would be very easy and fluid. Yeah.
Like
they love it.
Yes.
Wow.
I love the math.
I love that for them.
They're just very good at it. And maybe that makes crunch, a math crunchy game, just more second nature for them. Mike, something I'm curious to hear as a game designer, your opinion on is at what point does something that is perceived as crunchy feel more like poor game design to you?
Sure. Yeah. And right, again, this is going to be relative, but I
Mike's
think
feelings.
For me, I might identify crunch as representing things that I don't agree with in terms of choices, or where I feel like different parts of the design are working against one another instead of working with one another. Sure. If different parts of the game use scaling or like structures that make it harder to understand the other one, right? If I'm going to make up a game here, right? Damage scaling in made up game is logarithmic. And then armor is a linear progression.
Okay.
Right? Unless that difference represents a specific idea or perspective in game design, the idea that I might have to switch between different types of progression and calculation in my mind feels like it's going to add cognitive load. And I don't know that I would suggest going with that, right? In Daggerheart, we ended up with, or the game ended up with a lot of things being in 6s and 12s, right? Your your proficiency can go up to 6. Your hope value can go up to 6. HP and stress mostly start at 6, right? 6s and 12s. And having parts of your game be parallel or like synchronize in such a way that, like, okay, when I'm in this game, I'm thinking largely in 6s and 12s, and it's D12s and things like that, where if there's symmetry, then that may ease some of the cognitive load. And so then when you have places where there isn't symmetry, and here I'm not talking about symmetry between players and GMs, but symmetry within the game's design, conceptually or like numerically. If I have to do too much key shifting, or I have to do too much switching into, okay, we're going from base 10 to base 12 here, that, unless it's an intentional manifestation of design perspective, feels like it is adding labor and cognitive load to the practitioners, GMs, or players that maybe isn't satisfying a particular design intent. And so what it's doing is it's just making harder to engage with. Right? And that might be something that, especially if, I was talking with a designer who is soliciting feedback, I might say, I feel like I'm having to switch between languages in these two different parts of the game when I don't understand why they can't just be using the same language.
Hell yeah.
That was like 7 metaphors. So
is that why they got rid of Thaco?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, and you did just
back in the day when crunchy wasn't a word, right? Like we just played it. We didn't.
You played it.
You're like, oh, this is like just all there is.
Get your grid paper.
You got to figure it out.
Right. Well, I never did.
And you
armor class being low used to also be good.
Right.
And so there's a bunch of like design psychology about like, okay, so multiplication and division are more cognitively difficult for most people than addition and subtraction. If you can do addition only instead of subtraction, that's going to be easier than if you have to do subtraction and then addition, right? All of this stuff that goes into streamlining the process of engaging with material.
I found that as the Daggerheart GM of the group, with my adversaries, and I didn't realize that I was just following a blueprint that y'all had laid for me all along. But when I start doing things like thresholds, I always just made them like easy math for myself. When I could, multiples of 10s. If not, I kind of followed the rules of 6s and 12s without knowing. Like that, you saying that is really the first time I've heard someone speak that part out loud.
I know.
But I did just...
That's really cool.
And I would get like sometimes even like the adversaries that were in the book, if it was like one was 12, like one threshold was 12 and the next was 23. I was like, no, it's not. It's 24. Like, cause I have to make that. And I understand why it might've been 12 and 23. I'm not saying that's bad design, but for my brain, but again, not a crunchy system to me because that took me no cognitive load at all to be like, small tweak. I'm ready to go. Let's go. Let's do this. So thank you. Please pass to all your friends that I see you and I appreciate it.
It's amazing all of the I mean, I know nothing about game design, but you really have to be really smart to do it well, right? Like there's so many things that the designers are taking into consideration that the players and even the game masters never even think about, right? They just play it. But this is true of all kinds of design, right? You know, when design is good, you're not thinking about it.
Yeah. 100%.
Yes.
But it's really cool for you to pull the curtain back on the thought process a little bit, because
what I do when I want to add, in case this is feeling like intimidating to folks in terms of like, oh, maybe I can't get into game design. There are whole traditions of game design where the amount of math is almost zero, right? Okay. Nordic LARP and a lot of freeform RPGs use very, very small amounts of math. And the interlocking systems that you're gonna have to think about they take really, really different forms, right? If you're designing in the lyric game space, if you're designing a lot of solo games, even if you're designing in like a Power by the Apocalypse or a Belonging Outside Belonging or Descended from the Queen, right? There's so many different types of games. And so if you are looking to get into game design, what I will often recommend is start by thinking really deeply about the games you already love. Why do you love them? What about them do you love? And then if there's places where they inspire you to say, well, what if it worked like X? You can begin your game design journey more formally in that space. You are not required to go up to the crunchiest jagged mountain and base jump to try to hold all the math in your head.
Incredible.
Wow.
I'm definitely going to go base jumping off Mount Crunchy.
I was about to say, what an elegant way to tell Evan to jump off a cliff.
Go jump off a cliff.
Straight into
Me and
a
Captain
pile
Crunch.
of D4s. Straight into
Yeah,
a
I'm
pile
gonna
of the
tandem
caltrop
parachute
D4s.
with Captain Crunch.
That's right.
Wow. This is just really, this is exactly what I wanted this to be, because what you were just saying about the easing off of the multiple languages suddenly gave me the reason why A Sly Flourish would say that Dragonbane is less crunchy to him. And I probably a big part of that is the roll under system, which I kind of loved. It's kind of a mind game that you're playing if you're playing it for the first time, because you're so used to D&D, but you're actually doing, you have one time in the game that you're coming up with the number, or at least per session usually, and then that's it. You've got that number. You've got to be under that number. And
Man, I wonder if that's why you like Cypher as much as you do as a DM.
I think it might be.
And for somebody who loves futzing, as a DM, you tend to like the less futzing, the better.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
Like I think that if I'm feeling that something is overcomplicated, and or does not give me the tools, like the campaign frames for Daggerheart or just Cypher, period, very, non-denominational. If I don't have the rules to change something, or if, I'm feeling it's like super overblown, then I futz way more. I futz and futz even more. Which is, and I'm not using that in that case. I'm not using that in a positive light. I'm using that in a, I was trying to fix D&D, just like Alan, the dungeon coach, was.
Yeah.
Just like everybody was. The things that about D&D that always felt friction-y, I was trying to fix. But what a waste of time, because, waste of time because, as Mike is saying, that's the way the game is designed.
It's designed.
It's just, it has already been thought out. THAC0 has already been removed. This is the pinnacle of D&D as we know it right now. And for those that disagree, luckily, you've got Daggerheart. And for those who loved 4th edition, now you've got Drawsteel and these other offshoots but to disparage the designer's choices in like the end is definitely not the way I should be. Ouch.
Okay.
And
What?
you can think that a game doesn't do what you believe it is setting out to do, right? A game can be designed with intentionality, but then not ring true to you.
Meet that.
Right.
Yeah.
And I would say, are there perfect games? For some number of people, there are probably games that are exactly what they want. And for other people, it's like, well, I wish it was a little bit more like this. And it might mostly be what you're looking for, but then there's something that kind of rubs you the wrong way. And maybe there isn't a game that does everything that you want. And then you're either hacking a game to make it more like that, or you're then going and designing your own game that's something like that, right? So many of the not D&D games emerge from someone experiencing that tension and trying to figure it out for themselves.
Yes. I think the purest example of that I can think of, I'm sure there's lots of pure examples, is
Nimble?
Yes, thank you. Nimble. In that, it started off as a hack of D&D. And then I think Evan realized pretty quickly, oh, you can't really do that. You really can't do that. That is actually making it more complicated. So more and more, he's been pulling it out. Okay, so I also had a question about your feedback, like feedback that you've gotten from people. We've accepted that everybody has different tastes and everybody has different definitions of crunch and experience and so on and so forth. So I'm real curious as to what people have said about Daggerheart to you and the crunchiness of it, especially in this era where these games are being built to be a little bit more agnostic, ironically. I'm just curious whether you've gotten any of that.
Yeah, right. I tend not to engage with folks who are like super critical of the game. Just because I tend to focus on positivity. And a lot of the time, if someone is talking about Daggerheart in the ways it doesn't work for them, it was never going to work for them.
Right.
Right.
Ding, ding,
And
ding, ding,
I'm not
ding,
going to say that there
ding.
aren't good faith critiques that identify things that from a perspective, this individual designer would rather things be different, but I'm not in charge of the design for Daggerheart. So there's a limited degree to which I can do anything about that. More useful to talk about, I think, is there's been some question and a lot of variety in what people think or what people think of or what they are asking for when they say, we want adventures for Daggerheart. Right? Because in the core book, there are campaign frames and there is a lot of guidance for a style of play that is very much what I trend toward myself, which is you build the story together with your players, right? It is as a story very much about the player characters, right? We can get into cultures of play. Sean Four did a great series on cultures of play on TikTok in the last couple of months, but there are folks who come to Daggerheart, especially from D&D or Pathfinder, and they say, I have a hard job and I have kids. I only have so many hours in the week. I have, this many hours for my game, and then I have a little bit of extra time. And what I find really works for me is if I have a big module and I can just read like a chapter of it at a time, and then I have a lot of structure and support, and I don't have to worry about figuring everything else out for myself. Satisfying someone with that use case requires different material and different types of support than somebody who says, well, I really like the campaign frames, but honestly, I just want more stuff. I don't want to have to homebrew adversaries. Can I just get more adversaries? Well, for folks like you, I have a book coming out next Tuesday with new adversaries. Right. And lots of people in the community are creating new frames, creating new adversaries, so on and so forth. But especially during the Drakkenheim, the kind of Drakkenheart is the code name that we use sometimes. The Kickstarter campaign to do a new version of Dungeons of Drakkenheim in Daggerheart, which I'm leading right now, and that's the thing that I'm working on. People were asking like, oh, well, but what is this going to be? Right? Is it going to be more structured, more firm, less firm? And in 3 years, when we look back on Daggerheart's launch in the first year or so since it came out, I think we're going to be able to see that there are going to be multiple threads and multiple styles of module design, where there's people who provide just campaign frames and are happy with that, or don't even need frames because they do it themselves. There's people who want frames. There's people who want a little bit more. Maybe they want like just a lot of like sandboxing material. Then there's folks that want adventures that have a lot of latitude, but they've got some core elements. Here's some setting, some premise, some NPCs, conflicts and factions. And then there are probably going to be people who want almost identical material to some other game they've played, but just using Daggerheart's language.
Right. Yeah.
Interesting.
It's almost like you're not going to make everybody happy with
what? Oh my God, almost?
I mean, like, and I say this as somebody who, like, I read a ton of, all the different Daggerheart from, Reddit subreddits to the, various Daggerheart Facebook groups. And it's like, in the same day, one person will say, stop making adversaries for Daggerheart. We don't need any more adversaries. It's such a great game to make your own. And if you're not making your own, you're stupid. And then someone else will say, like, I need more adversaries. I love everything about this game, but it's stupid that we don't have whole compendiums yet. And it's like, okay. Okay. That's nice, dear. So, yeah. That's what I'm learning more and more.
If I can turn this around.
Yeah.
Yes.
For those of you that GM and have or are thinking about GMing Daggerheart, what do you feel like is the type of and level of support that you want to be able to execute Daggerheart in the way that you like? And if we can tie that back into Crunch, that's optimal. But I'm interested in staying on this adventure thread if it's okay for us to do so.
I have a big opinion that just immediately entered my brain. That I would love to be a continued part of the solution to, because I'm going to give something very quippy and soundbitey right now, but like, please let me tap in and actually help with the problem that I'm offering. Everybody wants to homebrew, like they want their own special little unicorn of a character, right? And what we are finding more and more is that everybody's like base class for the homebrewing of the class they really want to play, whether it's an artificer type or, a cleric type or whatever it is, they end up having to reach for the wizard. And so I would love to be part of the solution. Like, and if that's what you want to do, great. Like, I'm not stopping anybody who is finding joy and pleasure in that, but I would love to find a kind of skinnable base level character class that does not always run straight to the wizard, I guess is what I'm trying to say. That's my biggest wish list. It's really funny that like you're here specifically because we do have a Daggerheart campaign going on, and we're already getting some of the homebrew classes, and we're already getting some. Can I bring this over from Dungeons of Drakkenheim? And I'm like, can you wait like just a little bit? Because like I'm going to be able to give you something so much better than us trying to like hack it and homebrew it. If you can just stay with me for a second, because yes, that's a really cool capability or spell or whatever it is that they're trying to do. So yeah, that's the big thing. Matt, anything coming to your mind?
Yeah, I mean, to your point, I think I've probably also said this before, but in Dark Souls, there's I don't even know what they call it. It's the naked character, basically.
Sure.
It doesn't really have a class. What is that thing called?
You're like a townie, basically.
But all of your stats are super neutral. Everything is like optimal possibilities, like endless possibilities. You don't lean any way or the other.
It's almost like a funnel system for Daggerheart.
Right. Ooh.
For those who don't GM, elaborate on what that means.
So if I can try to put these two together, right? Okay. So in these Soulsborne games, if you get the choice of classes, that will usually impact your starting stats, which impacts like, are you better at magic? Do you do more damage? Do you have more health? There is often a version that is the lowest possible starting stats for everything. No other special stuff, almost no starting equipment. It is a higher level of initial challenge in most cases, but it gives you maximum flexibility of which way you want to build your character as you spend points to level up. The parallel for me there is like a 0-level funnel, which is a adventure structure that I see most often in OSR or like BX retro D&D-ish games, where
like Shadowdark and
instead of a level 1 character with class abilities, you're a level 0 character. Your stats are lower, but then you get to kind of grow on screen, or right, you grow in front story, not backstory. And I could see a version of Daggerheart that does that. It's not one that I have created. I have heard people ask for classless Daggerheart more than a couple of times, and build your own custom pairing of domains could easily be part of that.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, I want people to feel the freedom, and especially like the players in my campaigns, like I want them to feel the freedom to come to me and let's make something together. I don't want them to have to get there either, again, I'm picking on Wizard here, or like even, like having to dip into adversary capabilities, like, because that, like, I mean, Daggerheart does make that pretty clear that never the two shall cross there. So I think that's what I'm looking for, is to give people the experience they want without always I feel a little pigeonholed right now into just a couple specific routes to help get them there sometimes.
You know what it is?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Matt.
No, go.
It's that, because to tie this conversation into crunch, I think I have a way to do it, which is that specifically when we're talking about classes, and I think Zarion has a very good point of that they think the primary reason why D&D has so many classes and subclasses is people don't actually want to be restricted. So honestly, the kind of the core of what's out of Daggerheart right now is in the medium crunch zone, I think we all can safely say. And that by adding more classes or adding more domain cards, adding more like that is going to increase cognitive load, specifically for new players. But what would be interesting, I think, and it kind of feels this way with the Void, would be almost like, can we get like a DLC for Daggerheart, right? Or like an expansion pack where you don't have to have it. It literally exists as its other thing. If you want to just play what comes in the box of Daggerheart, go with Beelzebub, right? But you also have this expanded thing so that there are maybe more level 1 domain cards to choose from for the different domains. There's more classes, there's more ancestries, just things, because the one thing that I worry about a little bit with Daggerheart, and this is just a preconceived thing because we haven't gotten to this point, is I worry maybe that as a player anyways, it might start to feel stale over time. Like with my choices of like, oh, well, I've already played a Seraph Ribbit. I don't want to play a Ribbit again. I mean, I know you can start homebrewing and doing the different domains and things like that, but it would just be cool if it was almost like we get just like a DLC with a whole bunch of extra stuff. So if you do start to feel like your table wants a little bit more crunch, you can add a granola topping to your parfait of Daggerheart.
Yeah.
Or if we're at like rice to riches and we want like a granola topping versus like a brown sugar topping.
Exactly.
Yeah.
100%.
Something I expect we're going to see more of, especially as more core content is added, or just let me be really clear, as Darrington adds more material, right? When there is more official first party material.
Yeah.
I think we then may see from Darrington and from community creators more campaign frames that say such and such class is not available, that do that curation for you because certain classes or ancestries or whatever don't fit what the designer of that frame is going for, right? Clanks are not available in Motherboard because all of Motherboard is about your relationship with machinery, right? What's the version of a campaign frame that's several steps beyond that, where part of the thing that the frame is offering you is we've already done a lot of thinking, and here is a set of options that we think all make sense for one in relationship to one another for the thing that this is set up to do.
Yeah. I mean, we're starting a new campaign next weekend, and it's going to be in Daggerheart. And Lord, let me tell you, the minute that Daggerheart said that they were going to have a fungal character, a little mushroom, right? Yeah. I'm like, that's it. That's my forever ancestry. Everything else is in the garbage. I'm only going to be a fat little mushroom for the rest of my Daggerheart life. But that does not fit at all with the campaign that we're going to be playing. So
mushrooms in space.
Mushrooms in space. So, like, a little fungal isn't going to necessarily work in, like, a political intrigue campaign. So we are...
That is a limiting belief, Fitzy.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, can I play a mushroom in disguise? I look like a human, but I'm actually a mushroom.
If the
Transfungals
exists within the setting and you have political intrigue, you would be ludicrous to not have fungal in your spy network.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. The whole network.
That's why
Yes.
that's a limiting belief, Fitzy.
Yes.
You're right.
I don't
You're
believe
right.
that I have given any such limitations.
I just
yet,
felt
but-
like it
We're all
doesn't fit the
coming for you,
vibe.
Fitz.
So I was
Not with that attitude.
I
Well.
was. Oh my God! Wow! I was trying to prove a point of like I was trying to expand my horizons and look farther than
we're
the
forcing
shroom.
you back into that.
No, because I
Dark,
see you.
cool
Fitz.
mushroom hole.
I'm joshing it with you because the Fibbit is mine. I want to be a fairy ribbit in every single campaign I play. Because you took something small and cute and you gave it wings and maybe some antenna, and what's better than that? So, I'm with you on like I have no idea what ancestry I'm going to play. I think I figured out the class, but not the ancestry for that exact same reason. So I'm joshing because I'm there with you. Don't worry.
Dave's got it right. Girls just want to have fun.
Girls just want to have fun.
Girls just want to have fun. Girls.
I also love this conversation because when we started playing D&D during the pandemic, I've never really been a player for real. I've never like
player for real.
I always wanted to be game master, and so I don't share that character creation fervor that AK and Fitz have. And I love hearing this because your question was, what as a GM would you need out of Daggerheart to make all of your dreams come true? And in my mind, I've been given those dreams, but I love hearing from AK. Yeah, it would be cool to have a neutral character because I would not think about that. I wouldn't think about it. In my mind, the goal is to ask what the players want to play, because chances are, especially a campaign, it might be a year or more, 5 years, 6, who knows, 40. And I want them to be happy with those choices. I want that. And so on my side of it, with a combination of the work done by Pixel Table and just my own brain and the players' brains, we can so easily build whatever we want. And I did not feel that with other games, personally. I didn't feel that kind of freedom. I mean, of course you could do it, but it just felt like it was more difficult. It was far more insurmountable. But when I can go on the card builder and literally change the text, something about that immediately calms me down. Like I'm like, okay, now it's real. No, this is a brand new ancestry. It's called the Schmoosilla Flag, and this is the card. I can print it out. So maybe that's a big part of it too for me, is that I've always felt like you don't have to do as much futzing, because here are the rules, and then go forth and do what you want. Yeah.
If y'all aren't paying attention to the chat, I would like to and the Fungercorn as someone who does cherish a unicorn.
So is the horn of a Fungercorn just a mushroom bloom, or is it something
like a
else?
spore bloom?
It is an edible.
It's like with the the ants and what's the mushroom that will zombify you?
The zombies.
Yeah, and they do don't they have like a little fungal growth?
Well,
right.
We've now decided my ancestry, folks. Good talk, everybody. Thanks for coming to the Pocket Dimension Live.
That was a real point
Unimush.
today.
I'm excited to hear that there is more. That there are modules in the planning. It sounds like. I mean, we heard at Gen Con, the whole campaign setting that they're working on, the Strahd for Daggerheart and all of that.
We're just getting started.
We're just getting started. They're still started. And so, as someone who's been GM curious, that would be a huge relief to me, because I have no GM experience and my life is very busy. So you gave the great example of like, I would be extremely intimidated to try to, even with a more rules light system, lighter, like Daggerheart, and more towards my heart of being storytelling forward, as opposed to mechanics forward. Even with the campaign frames, I would still feel some level of intimidation going in. So the nice cozy blanket of just give it to me is I would be excited for that. That's
Yeah.
cool.
Because one of the things that I want to do, right, that I'm trying to do with Drakkenheim that I don't think is giving away anything, and Ghostfire, if you're unhappy about this, let me know, is I want the Daggerheart Drakkenheim version to be something that I would want to GM.
Yeah.
Right? Because I think I'm going to be able to do a better job designing the version of that I would enjoy the most, right? Because it's an expression of the tool set that I would resonate the most with. And if I'm having to work against my own aesthetic, I think that's probably going to result in worse work. So for a module, I want to have some space. I want to have that latitude, and I want to have the flexibility for things to be able to combine in different ways. Part of why I'm doing the work on the Drakkenheim project is that I had played Drakkenheim in 5e, and that I already saw that adventure as something that I thought had the flexibility and was really player driven, and that sandboxiness already fits with Daggerheart. And so there was a certain extent to which just deciding to do it, right? Just Ghostfire saying we are going to do it, and there's the funding for it, so go, sets me up for success. And the thing that I want to be able to do is think about the breadth of desires and the breadth of aesthetics of people who are excited about Daggerheart and either want resources they don't have or are just looking for stuff more broadly, right? And so I think that Daggerheart will probably be at its healthiest if there are several threads of adventure design, right? Where here's a more maximalist thread where a lot more is established, but then there's stuff like cool prompts where you can personalize into individual bits or ways to like guidance to connect your character to the adventure. And then there's something that's kind of more squishy in the middle where it's really flexible and mutable, but there's some notable amount of material to work with. And then other people are just going to be working in a space that's a lot closer to what I see in like OSR and OSE, where it's just, here's some things to get you started and some evocative stuff, right? In campaign frames or in just some like tables and charts and things. A great example of some of the more minimalist stuff is Jack Panic or Dungeon Club. Have y'all looked at the stuff that he does? So Jack publishes as Dungeon Club, but is a graphic designer and a game designer. So one, all the stuff that he puts out looks really good, and the look of it helps sell and convey what the thing is. But a lot of the things that he's done for Daggerheart or Daggerheart compatible are kind of the scaled down, most simplified, bring yourself to it versions, though he also has like a TVA Loki Control-esque campaign frame that he's made classes for and an adventure for, right? So he's kind of building like a product line of stuff there. And so we already have a bunch of stuff that's happening on Itch, Drive-Thru, and Heart of Daggers, but a lot of what I've seen on the module design side has been on that lighter end of structure, right? Because it takes a long time to write a 200-page adventure. And to the folks who really need those bigger books, all I ask for is a bit of patience because we are working on it.
You got it.
How long you need for the folks out there like myself who like I have no idea what the lift on a project like that is.
Yeah. So
on average, how long does that take?
The delivery date listed on the Dungeons of Drakkenheim Daggerheart campaign guide is November of this year.
And you broke ground on it when?
November of last year.
November of last year, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, amazing.
Now,
so what's coming out on Tuesday?
So Tuesday, yeah, I'm going to start a adversary supplement series called Menagerie of Mayhem because I like my alliteration.
I love that.
And this is 35 new adversaries across all 4 tiers. There are some new enemy groups where it's several adversaries kind of that are all thematically, fictionally linked. There's a couple of multi-phase adversaries, right? Like in a video game with multi-phase bosses.
Yes, I love those.
And then there's just kind of some other bits and pieces across different tiers because I did work on adversary design in the core book. And so I'm getting to kind of continue that in a creator-owned, but for Daggerheart space, right? Because the Darrington staff are continuing the design that we're all now going to see in Hope and Fear, but there's a lot of different ways to go. And what I'm hoping to be able to do is to deliver new adversaries that folks running Daggerheart can be really confident are going to be designed at a high level of thoughtfulness, that even as you have to adjust things for your game, because different characters and different tables are going to be different, that this is not a book of 200 adversaries that are sketches. This is a smaller book with adversaries that have had a lot of thought going into them. Right. And then ideally, this comes out, it does well, I do more. And by the time I get to volume 3, 4, or 5, I then do a big collection that becomes your 100+ adversaries book.
Right.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And how can where can people find this? How can they throw their money to you?
Yeah, so it's coming out this Tuesday, January 20th. You can go to michaelrunderwood.itch.io, or you can find me at patreon.com/michaelrunderwood. If you become a backer at $10 or more a month, you can get that PDF right now. You don't have to wait.
Oh, nice.
Oh, snap.
Backers get it first. And that's going to be the way that I do all of my creator-owned supplements to, it's part of the Patreon is that you're supporting me making these things, and so you get them first.
Yeah.
Cool.
We already have your channel tagged in the description. I will go ahead and immediately after this add both of those links, your itch.io and your Patreon. So
thank you.
Whenever you're watching this out in internet space land.
Digital Twisted asks if it'll be on Demiplane. I don't have a connect with Demiplane, so I will have to build a relationship with them to be able to make that happen, and I've not started that process. But being able to provide materials for VTTs is definitely on my list of things to do. It may just take a while to be able to do it at scale because I don't have the programming chops, so I'd have to hire other people.
Yeah. One thing at a time.
Well, pesky code, man. God,
dang delight to have you here. We definitely invited you to the right convo and hope that there will be many, many more times for all of us to get together and talk nerdy.
Well, thank you so much. I'm excited to hear about your new game that you get started.
Thanks. We'll know more by end of week next week. Yes, brother.
Can we go out on your favorite crunchy cereal?
Ooh, favorite crunchy cereal. I was a Cinnamon Toast Crunch kid.
Hell yeah.
Yes.
It's in the name. Crunch is in the name.
Crunch is in the name.
I mean, there's Captain Crunch, Cinnamon Toast Crunch. What other cereals have crunch in the title? I can't think of any.
No,
Crunch.
That's a really good point.
Isn't there one just called
Crunch?
Isn't there one just called Crunch, or am I having a fever dream?
I don't.
I think I'd pass on that one.
Okay.
Crunch cereal.
Cinnamon Toast Crunch with marshmallow dice.
Timelines.
It's Fruit Loops for me because I think that's plenty of crunch.
Those rip up your
they rip up your mouth. Therefore, crunch.
Yeah, I know. Hell yes.
I love that.
I have to separate cereals into like healthy versus sugary. So Cinnamon Toast Crunch is definitely my sugary pick. And as I mentioned at the top of the show, I'm on the biggest Weetabix kick right now. So that's my
Weetabix.
Love it.
It is very good. That's
well, we all know I like a medium crunch, and my favorite cereal isn't that crunchy, but it's Team Cheerios. So medium.
Team Cheerios. Yeah, from the Olympics.
We've talked about this. The
Olympics. Right. See, I forget about it because I don't want to remember.
Doesn't matter. You forget about it because you don't actually care. It affects you like 0%. Meanwhile,
there's no such thing as Team Cheerios, man. No way.
I am grieving Team Cheerios every day. Every morning when I make my breakfast, I grieve.
Just a tear just dripping.
Yeah.
Single tear.
And brother? Who?
Yeah.
What?
Oh gosh, I as a kid, I don't know how crunchy it is now, but my memory, like Honey Bunches of Oats was was a good crunchy cereal. Cracklin' Oat Bran was also very crunchy.
I've got it. I've got the one. I've got the
one.
And it's actually it is possibly my other favorite, which is super weird. I just said that my favorite was Fruit Loops. My other favorite cereal grape nuts.
I love.
I was
grape nuts,
surprised when
man.
you
I
didn't say
respect
grape
that.
nuts.
But in
Get
yogurt,
grape
not
nuts.
milk.
Grape
That's how I
nuts.
like to
Right.
consume my grape nuts.
Grape Nuts
crunchy.
has the greatest soggy to crunchy ratio of any cereal.
Yeah.
Cement, wet cement, or dry cement.
Yeah, we're gonna just eat cereal and sourdough all next week. Couple of announcements before we go. Fitz and Evan, anything from Bud and Herb World?
New episode on Tuesday.
New episode on Tuesday. Go watch Bud and Herb, and then go buy Menagerie of
Mayhem.
But there's some big news. Speaking of the Dungeon Dudes at Drakkenheim.
Yeah, we released the penultimate episode of ADHD 20 Season 4 this week, featuring Kelly McLaughlin of the Dungeon Dudes. What a gosh darn delight.
Right? Like a week after he got officially diagnosed.
Yeah.
Yep.
He got diagnosed, and then next stop was over to see us, and we couldn't have been happier to talk to him. So that is live now.
Yeah.
Go take a listen. We have one
wait
more
to hear it.
episode coming out this season, and then we'll be off to the races for season 5 of ADHD 20. And then the other announcement is, I believe, we haven't talked about this explicitly, but I'm going to guess we will be dark next week because we'll be together in my town. So we can play some games like Daggerheart.
That's right.
And Divination.
We won't be dark.
RPG. Maybe we won't. That's why I said we haven't. I think we might be.
TBD.
We don't know.
TBD.
TBD.
In real life.
We'll let y'all know in the Discord.
Yeah.
That's right.
But you know, the pocket watches are in charge. No keggers. And try not to burn the place down without us. If
That's
we're
right.
all gone.
That's right. Lock up your sons and daughters. Lock up your animals and your
Hide your
friends.
dice. Hide your mask.
Yes.
Hide your dice. Hide your
Hide your
dice.
dice.
Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah,
It was-
seriously.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. It's
yeah.
it's fun to get to dive in, not just like, one-on-one conversations are one thing, but like jump into a group and to be able to have different people to bounce off of is really fun.
Yeah.
We'll bounce.
We
with
love
you
a good
anytime.
4-on-1.
We really
Yeah. Let us be your trampoline. Well, all right. On that note, we'll see you. Bye, everybody.
Bye.